Welcome everyone to another episode of Big Brain MMA Podcast, episode 40. I'm your host, BigSteve. Good old mate, Scrap back. A little hungover, but he'll be right. How are you, mate? Excited for this card. We've had a card that was almost like a pay-per-view last week, and now we've got a pay-per-view, so 2 good weeks in a row.
Yeah, it should be good. It's maybe like a little bit of a substandard pay-per-view compared to the ones we've been having lately, but can't complain too much. Still some good fights.
Yeah, it could be worse, man. As long as it's not some fucking female main event card with a bunch of jobbers, LFA people, like I've seen a lot worse. All right, let me just share my screen. We did a big podcast. It was almost 2 hours last week, so let's partly myself to blame. Let's not take too long this week. Let me just do this screen. Cool. So I'll start off with a little review. So last week I lost 1,700. Is what it is. It's been a while since I've lost that. Not since old mate put his neck in a guillotine against Tresean Gore. So it's fine. I just broke 41,000 for the year. So whenever you have a good breakthrough like that, it's for me anyway, it's a losing event around the corner. But it could have been a lot worse. So I'm happy. It started off with first bet was over 1.5 on Marshall, which I didn't feel confident. Hence why I only had half a unit. I was scared the Rojo would knock him out potentially. So I put a quarter unit on Rojo. A lot of line movement on this card last minute, so I ended up having a lot of plays. Line moved, so I'm like, I have to sprinkle at least a quarter unit, and then I checked and I accidentally doubled it up, so I had a half a unit on Rojo, and I was like, oh no, he just started losing straight away. So straight away, I got myself in a Zen mindset. You know, it is what it is. We'll get out of it. So I was like $1,000 down when it should have only been 500 because the over lost as well. Passed on Nunes, which I'm happy with. I talked about it with you. I thought there was value, and then upon retape, I thought she was way too hittable, and winning rounds 2 and 3 was going to be slim margins. I just want to make a little announcement quickly as well. Tattoo and Dreams, my man, he had a suggestion for me to do another podcast idea, so I'm going to be doing that tomorrow. Like I said, a lot of times I retape fights after this, so it's going to be like a final thoughts. It's only going to be 10 minutes or so. So after this, with me and you, I'm going to do like a Saturday after weigh-ins podcast. So thanks, mate. Thanks for that. Anyway, I lost a quarter unit on Valdez live. They won one going into the third against Natan Levy, the absolute fraud, and then he weasels another decision out. So his fate is coming. Won a little bit on Pierce round 3 decision. Like I said on the podcast, I think he would have to turn it on quite a lot to get Elkins out of there in rounds 2. He mostly just gets gassy people out like Makwan to quit. Nothing on the Johnson fight. Ended up playing Guida last minute. Went up to $2.80. That was just insane. My hand got forced. Luckily he won. Regret passing on Angela Hill. I was going to do a double. She was 240. I was going to play her as well, but I thought I just squeezed out some profits on Guida, so I'll pass. Big regrets. Like I said, biggest play was Price. Had a full unit on it, and I hedged him with Rowe rounds 2 and 3 KO. So I think I got lucky there. That's why I'm not too annoyed about my big loss. Could have been a lot worse. Eric Anders won. Hindsight, best value of the card. As much as I hate the guy, you got to play the number. Pass on the Delize fight. Thank God I would have been pissed off with that result. Jesus Christ. Feel sorry for anyone that had Jack and Manson. Absolutely cruising until it wasn't. Sergey Pavlovich had half a unit on Ty. Nothing on the Nikolai fight. Nothing on the Sanyos fight. And the biggest reason I lost 1,700, I had 2K on Holland, no scorecards. I really like that. I thought if it was going to be a finish, it would be Holland, and he almost got it in the first. I was only going to have a unit, but then you pointed out there was a better line on Top Sports, which I double hit. And the whole week I was like, should I really have 2 units on this? It's not my kind of play. It's risky, And yeah, it is what it is. At the end, he broke his hands and quit. Still didn't get knocked down. So, kind of a bad bet, kind of unlucky, but still a bad bet. He was going to take a beating rounds 4 and 5 from Wonderboy if he didn't finish him. So I got saved by putting 1,000 on Wonderboy live at $1.60. So otherwise it would have been a lot worse. And I had to start round 3 because there was just high-fiving a lot, and I thought this is going over. I just have to bite the bullet. If he gets knocked out, he gets knocked out. But I feel like this is going over, getting finished late. So I got saved by the over and the big live bet on Wonderboy. Other than that, still would have been a little loss. Some regrets on passing on Hill, not going bigger on Anders, etc., but I can't complain. It is what it is. How about you, mate? How'd you go?
Yeah, all right. pretty rough start. Obviously, I was on Nunes, and I ended up taking some goes the distance there as well. And immediately, I was just like, man, these are both pretty ruined. Like, I mean, she did all right for that first part of round one, where she got the knockdown and stuff. But then, even towards the end of round one, you could just see Yasmin was just getting the pace going. And then, as soon as round two started, I knew it was done. Unfortunately, line was just gone. Couldn't hedge off or anything, so I had to take the L there. Nunes is, she's a bit of a fraud. Well, not a bit, a lot of a fraud, you know. You just can't be in. How can you fight at like women's 115 when you got like barely more than a round of cardio? You're very easy to take down. You can't get up off your back. Like, it's just a, recipe for disaster, basically. I was pretty impressed by Yasmin, she, I didn't think she was as good as she appears to be. Like, she's really big for the division. She's tough. She's got insane cardio, and she's just willing to drive like a crazy pace, which is going to win a lot of fights at women's 115, because it's not like girls have like ridiculous stopping power to like deter her from getting a game going. Loss on the Marshall Rojo over 1.5. Like, not an amazing bet, but still think there was value there. I mean, it was looking pretty good until Rojo just got caught on a clinch break with his hands down and just got put out with one shot, where he quickly really had to put a beating on the guy to put him away. So that's just, things random in MMA. Sometimes guys will hang in there and take a bunch of shots. Sometimes they go out off one against the guy who's, maybe not as much of a hitter as Carla and Jourdain. Who knows? But yeah, I managed to turn it around with the next fight. I was on the over 1.5 for a fair bit in the Levy fight. I think Levy overs are always good. People are always betting like his unders and him to win by submission and stuff. And like you said, the guy's a fraud. He's terrible. He doesn't know how to finish fights. So there was a nice hit there. And then I got a bit of Levy decision going into round 3. Like 1-1 sort of thing. But I just thought Levy's going to be able to get takedowns in this last round if he needs them. I thought there was potential he might be up 2-0. Wasn't the case, obviously, after the fight. But I was happy getting Levy decision at plus money going into that third round when I knew he kind of had that grappling in his back pocket. Moving on, didn't have any action on JSP or these ones. I did end up playing Jacasey decision, but bailed on that live, thankfully. Got out of that one with MJ on the live bet. I was on the goes a distance in the Guida fight, and I added to that live. I ended up betting Holtzman decision after round 1, but then I bailed live on that and brought out again with Clay Guida. I ended up playing the GTD in the Angela Hill fight right before the fight at like minus 350, and even though the fight did not go at all how I expected, just complete one-sided drubbing, I think, it was never really endangered. Dakota was taking a lot of shots, but wasn't really ever seriously hurt or in danger of getting finished. Next fight, I had a small bet on Nico decision. And just turns out like Rose improved a bit fight to fight as you'd expect, and Nico's just washed. The guy's shot. Nothing on his leg kicks because he doesn't turn his hips over or anything. And just too hittable, too slow, just too far gone at this point. And just kind of got lit up there. We're both on Anders, like you said, so that was nice. Good, probably some of the best value on the card there. Yeah, him or Angela Hill or MJ. And then, glad I wasn't on Jack. Well, I had a little bit on him in rounds 2 and 3, so like it lost like 0.2 units or something like that. Yeah, that was a brutal one for anyone who was on Jack there. Didn't end up betting Ty, which I was pretty happy about, because I was just like, I know there's value, but I think he just gets murdered in round 1 at a pretty good clip, and that's what happened. So lucky I passed there. Lost on Schnell, just classic Schnell. What can you say? The dude just loves finding the way to drop the ball. Nearly got the live hedge. Price was coming down in round 1, over the first half, and then he just got hit in that first knockdown, and live bet went out the window. And then what else? Nothing. I didn't have anything on the RDA fight. And then, same as you. So I was on goes a distance, and the Holland no scorecards in the main event. Thankfully, I was up about 4 units going into the main event. Thankfully, I was able to live bet my way out of some of the loss, not all of it. And I ended up finishing like 2-point-something units up. So I lost about like 1.5 units between the action I had on Holland no scorecards and the GTD in that main event. But can't be too mad about Wonderboy getting the win there. Great fight, and pretty cool to see him get it done. So, it was an all right weekend overall.
Nice. Very nice. All right, let's get into it. We still took a little bit longer. Trotman boxing request. Please discuss Paddy Pimblett bout. He's my favorite fighter. We'll see how we go for time, mate. We'll see how we go for time. Just Giza. We got Nick Pearson from West Coast Canada. My boy Tattoo and Dreams. We're growing, mate. People from Canada listening now. Alrighty. Let's get into it. First fight of the fight. Cameron Saaiman, Silva Koslow. We'll use these first couple of fights to just rush it ahead and not waste too much time. I played Saaiman as a massive underdog in Contender Series. I liked what I seen. I just thought Kim was a bit juiced. Just a gritty southpaw striker, aggressive kid. He does end up on his back a lot, etc., which you see on his tape, and it's a big concern. Even Kim took him down. He does threaten a guillotine, and Silva Koslow does no tape. There's a lot of you know I have Fight TV footage. I have an account, but for his fights, you have to pay another 30 USD, which is almost double Australian, to watch his crappy pay-per-views where he beats a 4-4 fighter in round one. So it's like I'm not gonna get anything. I don't mind spending money for tape, but I don't think this is one of those fights where I'm gonna have a play and therefore waste almost $100 just to tape. So it's a pass for me. Over and under, kind of hard to gauge. I mean, Koslow finishes everyone, but he's finishing bums. I think Cameron Saaiman can survive on the ground against him, maybe knock him out late, but it potentially goes over the 1.5. It's just too many questions, too many risks. So easy pass for me. What about you, mate?
Yeah, same, man. Barely watched any tape on, what's his name, Koslow, just because there's not much out there, as you say. Yeah, pass for me, and again, I couldn't be interested in paying that price on Cameron, even though I think he probably should win, if I had to guess. But yeah, just easy pass fight.
Yep. Hopefully a live bet fight. I know it's the first fight of the card, but we had a live bet for last week. So if Koslow gets in ground time and ends up being a dog, Saaiman, he comes back. I reckon he knocks him out late. So that could be a good live bet fight. All right, next one, barn burner, Daniel De Silva, V Salvador, another big dog that I cashed on Contender Series Salvador when I was in Europe. Got up to $3 something. I get where people were coming from. Shannon Ross, the guy that he beat, is just a pretty average Australian guy. Turkish delight. Salvador has horrendous takedown defense. He fights with his hands low. He's fought some bums. He's been finished in pretty much all his losses. So I get that. But he's been finished by some good fighters. He got finished by Costa, who's fought in LFA. He got finished by that Filo guy that I also bet on Contender Series, the really solid jiu-jitsu Brazilian guy, and it was by ground and pound, so obviously goes hand in hand with his bad takedown defense. He obviously got mauled on the ground. I do think Daniel De Silva can take him down because every single other person has ever taken him down that's attempted it. It's just, how can you trust the guy that gets finished in round one by Victor Altamirano, right? That, in hindsight, I regret not hammering that under 2.5. I remember talking about it with you. It's like, do I bet it? It's $1.60. It's pretty juiced, but I've got 3 rounds, and Altamirano's a decision machine. It took 1 knee to the body for De Silva to fold. So in hindsight, that should have been the hammer. And Salvador actually has KO power. I think he's got the highest KO power rate out of all flyweights in the UFC. He's just, the dude swings bombs, and he went over 1.5 against Shannon Ross, but he dropped him in the first round multiple times. I don't think De Silva has the toughness. I can also see, I don't know if I want to play the minus 200 on Salvador just because of the weaknesses that I mentioned, and Daniel De Silva can hurt and finish anyone, right, if they give him the chance. So I think potentially the under 1.5 still has some value at minus 200. It's very juiced. The only way I see this going over is if De Silva gets him down and stays on top. I mean, that's how the Molina fight went into the second round. He got Molina and took him down and was on his back for a bit, so the clock was ticking. But as soon as it was back standing, it was literally one punch. And even like Bad Figgy, he takes him down. Bad Figgy's a decision machine, and he just instantly puts himself in an E-bar. So this guy's got a talent of getting finished by fighters that go to decision a lot. So this is a no-brainer. I think, Salvador could be on his back a bit. As soon as he gets up, you can knock him out. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm advocating for it, but, I mean, I'm really close to just putting 2 units on. How does this get over it would have to be Salvador just making sure this gets over the 1.5. So what are your takes on this fight, mate?
Yeah, pretty similar. De Silva just doesn't belong anywhere near the UFC. He's just a complete flake and a quitter for a flyweight. It's pretty insane, to be honest. He might be able to get a takedown here early on, and maybe he gets to the back and he can ride out some time on the back or something like that, just because Salvador's pretty poor defensive grappler, but like Salvador KOing him at some point just seems kind of inevitable with how hard De Silva's wilted and quit in every fight that he's had in the UFC. And Salvador's pretty reliable to like bring a bit of a firefight. You know, he'll just walk you down and swing on you. Silva doesn't really have the tools to, you know, slow down the pace of the fight. And Salvador's also massive, so he's going to be able to touch De Silva before De Silva can touch him. So yeah, I mean, if anyone's out there betting Salvador, ICD, KO, whatever, I think it's totally fine. De Silva's path is just getting something done in the first round. And maybe he does, you know, because Salvador's no defensive genius, but man, this guy is just such a bum. I think he's probably just going to wilt and probably dies under 1.5, unless he can like just kill a bunch of clock with some grappling control. But yeah, pretty simple one for me.
Cool, on the same page. Next one, Silva versus Brown. I'll let you take this one over, but I just want to say that I'm passing. I haven't taped this one. Maybe if it was before the line got equalized to pick him, I would have been interested. But now it seems accurate. I've seen no adversity from 36-year-old Silva, I think. As crap as TJ is, at least he's going to give him some adversity. He's fought a kickboxer in Contender Series, so again, it's just what can I make of a fight where I haven't seen anything from this 36-year-old? So up to you, mate. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, so I got TJ Brown early at like plus 170. So yeah, now obviously it's in to pick him. I am kind of debating if I want to just arb it off and then wait to live bet, just because everyone who tries to grapple TJ Brown pretty much has some success, even Charles Rosa. So if Silva goes out there and, you know, takes him down and gets his back and stuff early, I wouldn't be surprised at all. But that being said, Silva's a can crusher and he's one of the most one-dimensional guys in the UFC. So you'd like to think that a guy like TJ Brown, who's fought much better competition and is more well-rounded and has the experience and stuff, can deal with such a one-dimensional guy. But TJ Brown just loves getting submitted, loves making mistakes. The guy's found ways to lose to like John Griffin and some awful fighters, you know. So I'm still kind of undecided what I'm going to do with that, if I want to ride the, CLV, whatever, beat the line, or if I just want to play it a bit safer and wait for a live bet, because, Silva is most likely going to get something done in the grappling early. Like, TJ Brown's not a guy who can, like, deny grappling, like, just stuff you and separate. Like, they're going to end up, tying up and trying to exchange positions and stuff like that, and TJ Brown's just a bit of a mess defensively. But yeah, I do think TJ Brown is the side. Even at a pick'em, I'd still say I don't see any argument for, betting this round one fucking can crusher one-dimensional jiu-jitsu guy. But it's just at this price, I'd probably wait just for a live bet, see how it goes, because Silva's going to come out and shoot on him. So you want to see Brown defend that first, and then you can hop in live. I mean, you'd be happy to even pay a bit more on Brown live, I think, if you've got the information that he can kind of just stop Silva's takedowns, because what else does Eric Silva have to offer if you're stuffing his takedowns? So I'd be happy to pay like a minus 150, minus 180, whatever live on Brown, if he's sort of showing the right things. So yeah, that'll be the way that I sort of look to play it. Pretty simple.
Cool. Yeah, the closing CLV is sometimes tough. I've left so many bets on that I wasn't sure of because I beat the line movement and then ended up losing, and I'm always wary of not getting tricked by that good CLV that I got. All right, next fight. Billy Quarantillo, Alexander Hernandez. Hernandez dropping down to featherweight. I'm not too sure what to make of that. Seems like a big dude. What's your take on the fight, mate?
Yeah, I mean, not essentially on an island, but I see everyone just saying, oh yeah, probably Billy Q, but wait for live. I'm happy betting him pre-fight here. I think him winning round one is perfectly feasible. Of course, Hernandez could win round one, but I just have such little faith that Hernandez is going to do anything past the first round that I'm just more than happy betting Billy here. Like I cap him 65, 70%. So I bet him pre-fight at minus 160. Maybe he gets sparked by Hernandez, but the guy is insanely tough and insanely durable. We haven't seen it give out yet. Maybe he shows up. Maybe the Burgos fight took something out of him, and he doesn't quite look the same. But his style is just pure kryptonite for a guy like Hernandez. Hernandez might be able to take him down as well, but his top control is not great. I think Quarantillo can probably create a scramble and get back to his feet, and he'll make Hernandez work for as long as he is on top. And by the time Quarantillo does get up, like, Hernandez is probably going to be a bit tired. And yeah, just as soon as you can make Hernandez go backwards, and you're basically the one dictating when exchanges are happening. Like, Hernandez likes to be the one to dictate when exchanges happen. If you're just constantly like backing him up and throwing on him, and he's having to sort of like, defend and try to counter when he doesn't want to, you just see he just implodes mentally. Like, the guy hates pressure. So yeah, I just think Billy's just going to start walking him down, swinging on him. Billy probably gets hit a bit in return, might get taken down a bit, but man, Hernandez mentally just doesn't have it, and he just doesn't have any tools to deal with pressure. And also, once he's behind in a fight, he just can't. He doesn't have the answers to like turn a fight around. He doesn't know how to fight from behind when, that's happening. I'm pretty much expecting the Dover fight, but a less like, not as much of a pure shit kicking as Dover gave him, because Quarantillo is not as good a striker, not as explosive, bit easier to take down. But by, the back half of round 2 and round 3, I think Billy's going to be whooping him pretty bad. So yeah, give me just Billy Q money line here. I understand if you want to wait for live bet, that's cool. I totally get where people are coming from there, but for me, I'm just happy to bet it pre-fight.
Yeah. I personally don't have the courage to hit Billy pre-tape. He's got a bit of a Nico Price syndrome. Just looping shots, not much. I don't want to say pop. He does have pop, just like Nico Price, but he swings with everything he's got. He's just looping overhands, uppercuts. Just comes forward, relentless pressure, and he's just happy to be a punching bag until the other person tires out. And a lot of the time he loses round 1, which is why would rather live bet it. And if anyone's going to knock him out, I mean, it's someone like Alexander Hernandez, who just hits like a truck, man. There's just a massive speed advantage early and athleticism disadvantage as well for Billy. And if he's gonna do his usual style, I think it's the best way for him to win, right? Trying to play a technical game against Alexander Hernandez, he's just gonna get leg kicked, teep kicked. But if he pressures him, it's gonna give him a chance for Alexander to tire out. Like you said, he does hate pressure. The one time he got completely shut down by Moises with no pressure, it was he was pressuring Moises, but Moises was just backing up and countering him. So that's just another element of his game where he can't adjust. He just kept getting countered for 3 rounds and he couldn't adjust. This time he was pressuring, so to me, it's the longer the fight plays out, the more chance of Hernandez to losing. I mean, him wrestling OAM now is just such a weird thing to see in hindsight. Right? I consider OAM really decent. I don't know why he can't fight like that more often. It's just strange. It just falls apart now. I also consider this a bit of a step down, from the Moicanos and Drew Dober and maybe even Moises. I think Billy is just a bit. I can't get the Gavin Tucker, the Spike Carlisle fights out. I had money on him against Carlisle a lot actually, and I got lucky to get a decision there. It's just more athletic people, because he's so noodly. More athletic people can throw Billy around, and until they get tired. Obviously, this Hernandez is the perfect guy to get tired. Right, we've seen it before, especially at featherweight. So for me, I'm just looking at the under here. It was quite decent plus money, which is surprising for me. I expected I don't know why. Maybe because Billy goes to decision. But I mean, Hernandez has been finished and has a lot of finishes. So usually when at least one guy is kill or be killed, the line is a bit juiced. So pretty interesting to me. I mean, Billy has underrated pop on his punches. He's one punch Carl Nelson. That was one of the fights where I live bet it. I wanted to see Nelson get tired first. It's very dangerous early. And I live bet Billy by finish right before round 3 started, and he got that one punch KO. So yeah, I'm looking at that. I'm waiting for the no score fight ends in finish. Right, I'll take the extra 2.5 minutes rather than the under 2.5. I just think it's going to be an attritional from Billy. And Billy, I don't like his finishing ability that much per se. Like it's, he finished Gabriel Benitez with punches from the back. I think he was lucky there that his eye was closed and he was actually kicking the crap out of him. Gavin Tucker, once he got tired, he couldn't do anything. Shane was just rolling with all his punches. Pardon me. So it's just triangle choke against Kilburn. His finishing just kind of relies on people just completely falling apart. So I'm just going to wait for the fight ends in finish, and I'll just hit that. Hopefully it's decent plus money still, maybe 220, something like that. And then I'll look to live bet Billy myself. I think it's scary. It's scary in round one with someone so hittable against Hernandez early. So yeah, that's my play. Two and Dreams, Hernandez round 1 and 2 KO plus 1,300 plus 1,000. That's quite a lot, actually. I didn't expect it to be paying that much. I actually really got close to playing Hernandez as I was taping this. I was like, man, he's got so many advantages early, especially with Billy. I kind of feel like Billy is also regressing. I thought he was much better than he was. And I don't rate Shane Burgos that much either. But yeah, I just thought, nah, I can't trust Hernandez. Like you said, it's just might be throwing my money away a bit. Alrighty. Interesting fight here. Next, we have Chris Curtis versus V Buckley. Spent a lot of time taping this one, trying to get a good read. It's just one guy. I think it's going to be a stand-up fight. Having trouble capping it. I either cap Buckley as a slight favorite or potentially pick him. Maybe you can help me out when it's your turn. I just feel like one guy is in Curtis, flat-footed, plods forward, less volume, and looks to counter, and has a lot more sharper boxing. Whereas Buckley is a lot more fleet-footed. I was impressed by his footwork. He was a lot more in-and-out movement against Nasruddin Imavov, and he didn't really get tired. And obviously, you just tape the Hermansson fight, and you're like, okay, you can see the same thing happening with Buckley. Although Buckley's a lot more sloppy, he's not as technical as Hermansson. He doesn't leg kick. He doesn't keep good distance. He just blitzes in, and we've seen Razak Hassan counter him over and over again in round 1 so many times that Buckley's just like, yeah, no, and he turned into a wrestler and he started shooting. So that was a bit concerning that he was getting countered so much. Other opponents, not the greatest that he's fought. Imavov was just pressuring him. He was actually doing all right against Imavov in round 1 and then went for that sloppy takedown and just kind of lost round 1 of ending up on his back. So yeah, it's just I can see him being the favorite as being the younger guy. He's going to throw. He impressed me with his height in round 3 against Imavov, which means I always thought Buckley was a bit chinny, a bit flaky, but he impressed me with his cardio, impressed me with his chin there, with his heart. I think he's improving. Obviously, everyone knows I did fade him against the Chirico by KO. That was one of my better plays ever, just a little sprinkle. But yeah, I think his chin's... I don't think it's 100%, but it's still there to be cracked. I just feel like Chris is going to drop the first round. He dropped it to Vieira in the stand-up. Obviously, you could say that he was expecting the takedown, so he was a bit more hesitant. And he always comes on rounds 2 and 3. I think all 3 rounds can be competitive, but I think Curtis is the more durable guy. And if Razak was countering Buckley, I think Curtis can counter him all day long, at least in rounds 2 and 3. But I also saw his tweet saying he had an agreement with Buckley to stand in the center of the octagon and brawl. He goes, that's what he wants. He doesn't want to move out of the center. He just wants to swing. And it just reminds you how much of an idiot he is, It reminds you of that Hermansson fight. I faded him there. I played Hermansson $2.10, only half a unit because I couldn't get a read on the fight. Did not expect Hermansson to, shut him down for 3 rounds, 30-27. And he also got rocked with a head kick there that was blocked. Buckley ends his combinations with head kicks. He dropped the Rive with a head kick. Yeah, it's just a tough fight. But at the moment, the number is a bit silly to me. And money coming in on Buckley, I feel like I'm getting tempted. I'm feeling half a unit on Curtis pre-bet, $2.30, because it's just a bit out there for me. Even if you consider it a pick 'em, there's a bit of value on the bone there for me. And then maybe another half unit when live bet when Curtis starts coming on late. But that's it for me at the moment. It's dog or pass. I haven't played anything yet. I might just wait for the KO decision like I did with Anders. You get about 30 cents on Bet365. And also considering the overs. Buckley decision, $4.50. I think that's more likely than Buckley KO at barely plus money. So I think they're overestimating his power a bit. What do you got, mate?
Yeah, I got a lot of the same thoughts. I think Buckley is a rightful favorite. I guess I don't necessarily agree with the money line being wide because I think Chris Curtis is going to drop the first round at, at least probably like 60% here, 60, maybe 70%, because he's just such a slow starter. And he basically struggles with a lot of the things that Buckley does, which is a lot of footwork on the outside, a lot of kicks. He's obviously looking to just plot his way into range and let the hands go, and then you see he's just interrupted every time someone, either moves laterally out of his sort of, target zone, or they kick, right? They kick and they move, just like exactly what Jack was doing. And Curtis is cool. He does some fun stuff. I think he's pretty overrated now, though. People, I think, seem to think he's a lot better than he really is. For me, he's a cool boxer, right? And he's like the short, compact guy, and he hits the body really well. But the guy's just so limited. Like, it's so easy just to not give him the fight he wants, and then he just simply has no answers. He has nothing else to go to. He can't grapple. He can't kick. He can't fight long. He's just a pocket boxer, right? That's all he is. He dropped like most of the minutes striking to Jack and Rodolfo. So yeah, I think the money line's about accurate, but I agree with what you said. Like, Buckley does do things that give Curtis some issues, but at the same time, he's a bit sloppy with his defense. He will just kind of use his speed and just lunge into the pocket, try to blitz guys, and that does leave him open to be countered, as we've seen. So, he's probably a lot more likely to get countered and fight a bit of a messier, less disciplined game plan than Jack did. But at the same time, I still think like the kicking and the lateral movement on the outside, given Curtis issues, Buckley's at least offensive striking is going to be a lot quicker than Jack's as well, and a lot more explosive. So he's definitely got opportunities to hurt Curtis like Jack did. I wouldn't be surprised if he even broke it up with some takedown attempts just to mix things up, like he did against Razak. And I was pretty impressed by his wrestling against Razak. Like, Razak's a bit gassy, but the dude's got like crazy strong hips, and he's still like an absolute brick shit house. Good judo, obviously he threw Buckley a few times there. But I thought Buckley showed some really good timing on his shots there, was running through them, good finishes. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some takedown attempts just for the sake of mixing it up. When Curtis tries to step in on him in the pocket, he might just level change and run him over. Curtis is a small guy, hasn't been hard to take down in the past, although he's got like reasonably decent takedown defense and get-ups. So for me, that just makes the money line pricing fine pre-fight, to be honest. But then I agree with you about some of those props being off. I like the goes the distance. I like Buckley by decision. And I thought the Curtis no scorecards pricing was pretty off as well. I took some plus 150. I would probably flip that. I would say a finish probably favors Curtis at like 60%. Just with his ability to maybe find Buckley on the counter, and then also maybe he breaks him down with some body work if he can get that going to a late stoppage. I think a Buckley finish, he has to just like land a head kick or something like that, and it probably just has to put Curtis out. So yeah, I think those all have some value, those props.
Nice. That's what was it? No scorecards for Curtis?
Yeah, plus 150 at Bet Online. Top Sport's got like a plus 120. I think any plus money on the no scorecards on Curtis is pretty decent, to be honest. I don't see him, getting finished more often than Buckley does here. And yeah, Buckley decision, there's like between plus 350s, plus 400s out there. I think that's pretty good. To me, that's the most, I'm losing my words. The most sort of high percentage outcome is going to be a Buckley decision. Like not by a lot, I could see Curtis finish, Curtis decision, blah, blah, blah. But for me, the most common outcome would be a Buckley decision. I just think he picks up those first two rounds at a pretty good clip.
Yeah, I like that. I'm surprised that's plus money. I guess it's just all the decisions by Curtis, and everyone thinks Buckley's a KO artist. Obviously, he's got a few KOs now recently that's brought that hype back again. All right, let's move on. So Edmund Shahbazyan Dalcha champion. Let's go with that. A bit annoyed that I spent so much time taping this fight. Probably could have used my time to tape some of the other fights that I haven't had as much time for. Nothing really I like here. It's just the last bunch of Dalcha fights. Whenever he fights, I just have no interest in betting him. Obviously, I faded him against a couple of guys. Ankalaev was one of my first single bets when I was a jobber, just betting parlays and stuff. He still made me sweat. He still cracked Ankalaev on the temple and wobbled him a bit in round one. Just backs up, throws overhands. Occasionally goes for takedowns, horrible control, gasses up after round one. And then on the other side, you got old mate Shahbazyan, got good boxing, pressures, usually finishes everyone, and now, he's gone up and not really finishing much people. Even Chinny Brunson, he was laying it on him, couldn't really wobble him really. Jack Manson, he did quite well there. He it's quite close. I thought he honestly could have snuck out rounds too. I was surprised it was unanimous against Jack. Got taken down, but got on top. He's good scrambler when he's fresh. So if Dalcha takes him down, I can see Edmund just getting straight back up. Zero submission danger from Dalcha. Yeah, I don't know. Well, you can't play the $1.30 here. You do not want my money on Dalcha. Like, don't see him winning. He's just hard man to see win fights. Like, unless he gets a finish, you might as well just play that. So yeah, I thought about the under 1.5, but I can just see Edmund pressuring. It's plus money, so I can see Edmund pressuring him. Lighting him up. The Dalcha maybe going for a couple of takedowns and killing the clock, sitting on each other. Edmund taking his time. Yeah, just nothing I really like here. What about you?
Yeah, I just caught a bit of the Dalcha line early, plus 330, I think. Pretty crazy. One of those ones where you're like, yeah, obviously, I hate Dalcha as a fighter. I've faded him a lot in the UFC. But when a guy is got like the holes that Edmund does, that like plus 330, you're just like, fuck it, whatever. If I lose, I lose. Just a crazy line, right? Like Dalcha, he's not easy to put away standing, although like his striking defense is pretty terrible. Edmund's probably going to land on him. He's historically been reasonably tough, but I didn't like the quit job against Brundage. Like that was one of the biggest stunts we've seen recently. But at a certain point, yeah, the number's just big enough where, it doesn't matter and you just got to pull the trigger. So that was the case here. I mean, obviously Edmund's probably going to have a good round one like he always does. And then it's pretty much up to Dalcha if he can do enough, offer enough back to make Edmund gas like he does. For me, I still think Edmund's probably going to be a gasser. I think that's just who he is. His striking style, he only knows how to throw everything with power. And yeah, if you just, kind of get in his face and mix in some grappling and make it dirty inside, which Dalcha has shown abilities to do, right? He's got some ability in the clinch with his judo and, he showed some good cardio in the MAB fight, which is kind of weird because MAB is kind of like the pace guy, and that was the one fight where he actually showed some pretty good cardio, but apart from that, he's looked fairly gassy. So he's a bit of a weird guy in that sense, hard to get a read on. Yeah, he should be the underdog here, but that plus 330 was a bit crazy. And even at the current line, if you want to take a stab, I don't mind like just fading Edmund at these prices is just generally probably going to be a good bet, I think. So yeah, not much more to say really.
Yeah, one thing that I forgot to mention is I'm looking on Top Sports now because I don't know what the price is. You can potentially look at Shahbazyan submission, right? He went for a guillotine against Jack, and he went for a guillotine against Nasruddin as well, obviously. I thought Dalcha was going to have good submission defense, and then I saw, like you said, that quit job, which that's the only thing I can kind of sprinkle depending what it's paying. Let me just quickly check. Does it have prelims? Does Top Sports have prelim props?
Yeah, I think they do. Yeah, I was just having a look at some earlier.
It's crazy. Some of the other better books don't have prelims. Top Sports all over the place, honestly. Sometimes they deliver. What do we got? Method of victory, Edmund Shahbazyan by submission is $8. Jesus.
Yeah. Top Sport, the method props are always terrible. At Top, the decision ones are alright, sometimes alright, but the KO and the subs are always rubbish.
We got Edmund as American. I thought he was Armenian. Anyway, doesn't matter. Cool. Let's move on. Next fight on the card: Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Chris Daukaus. Bit of a hard to trust heavyweight fight. Not doing Daukaus any favors. What are your leans, mate?
Oh, I hate this fight. I don't have any action. If I was going to bet anything, it would maybe be the over, but obviously there's obvious concerns and reasons why you might not feel good about betting that. No chance they lay juice on Rozenstruik when he's just a dog shit minute winner, does nothing. He's usually losing until he finds a KO. And yeah, I'm not really interested in backing Daukaus either because he kind of just goes in there swinging hooks, which if he does that will give Rozenstruik the opportunity he needs to counter. Rozenstruik's more durable. It's just a shit heavyweight fight. I just don't feel particularly compelled to bet this from any angle. If the tempo is looking like super slow, then I don't know, maybe I'll look at it goes a distance live or something. It's one of those fights where like the GTD is something crazy, like between +4 and 500. So I could see Daukaus coming out, maybe overcorrecting a bit from his past fights, and they just have a classic heavyweight, utterly shit, low-tempo striking fight. So that's how I could see it going over or going the distance, and maybe those have some value. But at the same time, if Daukaus does what he normally does, he's just probably going to get himself killed. So yeah, maybe a small. I'm going to have some small bets on like overall GTD or something like that. But I don't really have any like convicted takes on this fight.
That would be a brave bet. And go the distance on this one. Just because I can't trust Daukaus, man. I got a unit on the under 1.5. I just thought it was a bit. The line wasn't juiced enough, and it got juiced like a few hours after that. It went from $1.72 to $1.60, like 12 cents, and who knows what it's going to drop down to. You know, by the time the event starts, I know a lot of casuals is going to see a lot of KOs, and they're just going to hammer it. It's very scary. I don't know if I'll keep it. I just wanted to play it so I can have an early line. Maybe I just look at round 1, round 2. But the only striking fight between these guys that's gone over 1.5, and I'm not counting Gane, because Gane is just impeccable defense. No one can crack him unless you're Tai Tuivasa. I think there's only one, and that was the Junior Dos Santos fight. So in that fight, Rozenstruik waited until just over 1.5 to knock him out. But I mean, knocked out, round 1 by Ngannou, knocked out Sakai, literally did nothing. I had the over 1.5 there, did nothing, and then just decided to throw and knocked him out with his first combination. That's the thing with this guy. This guy can put anyone out straight away he wants. Like people like Arlovsky and Crowder that are going to come in there like idiots and not set up anything. He's going to jab him. He's actually a really good counter striker. That's why no one comes in on him. And like you said yourself, Daukaus, he comes off as a good striker, right? As a good boxer per se, with all the knockouts but I think a lot of it is just he's got fast hands. He's very small. He's very light, and he gets there first. His hooks are quicker and they're sharper. He's got really good technique on his punches. He turns it over well, like his knuckles, and he just gets there first. But then even someone like Curtis Blades can counter him and knock him out. Like he's just K1 Curtis Blades. He just came in, loaded up, and he just threw it straight down the pipe. So I think that's what's going to happen. He's a bit fragile. Even on his regional scenes when Zhu Ayu knocked him out, if he doesn't get around 1 KO, things start to fall apart. And even on his side, right, all around 1 KOs, I've been cashing him quite frequently with that Nascimento, who's a $3 something underdog, and then against Olenek was a no-brainer. All right, just ancient Olenek. I'm impressed that he knocked out Porter, who's very durable. And then Shamil could have got him out of there round 1, and Shamil usually has very good distance management. Even Pavlovich, there was a lot of staring in round 1, but it's just he got hit twice and he was knocked out. So I think the 1.5 just hits more often than not. It's just you're going to be sweating. It can go into round 2, and you can potentially be sweating a lot. But it's like, how does it get over 1.5? It's just you have to have Jairzinho not throw anything, and you have Chris Daukaus decide not to throw anything either. Obviously, he's been knocked out twice, so he might do that. But I've seen on his interviews, he's saying, every time he goes in there, he's ready to come out, rearrange it, to go to hospital, and he's ready for his face to be destroyed. So I'm like, I think that's the only way this guy can fight. I thought about Jairzinho by KO, $1.80. I must pick him. If you're going to play him, you have to play him by that. Like you said, he's a bad minute winner. But then if it wasn't for that Volkov fight, I had money on him against Volkov. I would have trusted his durability, but now it's like, do I want to risk it? If Daukaus is going to win, it's going to be by KO, and he just has no head movement whatsoever, Jairzinho. So, yeah, it's a rough fight. Jairzinho by KO is probably the best value. He's got 3 rounds to do it, so you just have to bite the bullet and assume that Chris is not going to knock him out. But let's move on. It's enough about that fight. Alrighty. I do have a take here. I'll let you take it away. I see a lot of people, Jay Perrin versus Raul Rosas Jr., the 18-year-old making his debut. I see a lot of people thinking they're setting him up with Jay Perrin. Apparently this fight was offered to Cameron Else. So they obviously are trying to set up Rosas with a win, and Cameron Else said no. So they're like, all right, give it to Perrin. I don't think Perrin's as crap as everyone else thinks, but I'll let you take this breakdown away, my man.
Yeah, so Perrin seems to be like a fairly popular dog with a fair few people this week, and I do think the money line's a bit wide. Perrin's competent. He's pretty skilled everywhere. He's just kind of doesn't have much going for him in the way of like physical attributes, and so he just tends to get a bit outgunned at 135, which is a super deep weight class. He's kind of just a bit of like a jack of all trades, right? Like against Aori, close fight, and he just slowed down too much in round 3 and got hit too much. Rosas, we still just don't know that much about him, right? Like he's obviously subbed a bunch of like Mexican taxi drivers, and then he fought Mando on the Contender Series, who might be like the dumbest fighter who's ever existed. Whilst he did fine on Contender Series, I can't say I was that impressed. Like I was impressed by his ability to just keep pushing the grappling pace. But if Mando wasn't such a idiot, like you would have seen probably Rosas do a lot worse. Like Mando, just anytime he got a decent position, he just decided to give it up, going for a guillotine or just terrible defense in general. Like fuck, that was terrible. I was on Mando there for a small bet in the overs. Luckily the overs hit, but I think Rosas is probably going to hit a pretty hard brick wall in the UFC. I'm just not sure this is the spot that I personally want to fade him. I've actually gone for the overs and the goes the distance here, and instead of playing Perrin money line, I just think it's going to be close. Perrin's obviously the better striker, but I'm not sure he can do much to just stop Rosas from shooting on him. Like Rosas has shown that he'll just shoot over and over and over. And I think that it could be a case of Jay will do fine, and Rosas is definitely not just going to manhandle him or anything like that. But Jay just might end up spending too much time defending, is my worry. Like he does do a good job of like not getting put flat on his back and popping up and stuff, but he does get stuck up against the cage a bit. Obviously against guys like Batista and stuff, who you just can't compare to Rosas. And any time spent at distance should favor Jay because he's the better striker. Obviously, Bros really doesn't have much of a striking game to speak of, but I think he's just going to keep shooting, right? And I just don't see how Perrin can stop that. So yeah, for me, I like overs and goes the distance. I do not see Rosas subbing Perrin. I think like everyone's making this guy out to be some submission wizard when he just fights all these cab drivers, takes their back, and the arm goes across the neck, and he just gets the choke, right? He was never even close to subbing Mando. He tried some of those Silva stretches. They weren't close. I don't think he actually has great finishing process once he's on the back because he's used to just like putting his arm across the neck and woohoo, getting the choke. But against someone like Perrin, who's like a tough guy, he trains with Aljo. Like you're not just going to choke this guy from the back super easily, even if you get there. So yeah, for me, I decided like I think there is value on Perrin, but for me, I decided to play it a bit safer, and I thought there was good value on the overs too. I think this goes to decision pretty often. So yeah, that's the angle I like. Perrin's the money line side, no doubt, but I just prefer the overs and goes the distance because I'm not sure Perrin can get Rosas off of him enough. Like he just seems super sticky, and I think he might just force Jay to be defending for too much time, and Jay just may not be able to get enough of his own offense off.
Nice. So I do agree. I'm looking at that over as well myself. I mean, I pick him 50-50% chance that it ends in a finish, and Jay Perrin's never been finished, and he's a bit of a decision machine himself. What I will do is I'll retape it again, but this is one of the first ones I've taped, and I went in depth, and I do have a play on Perrin. I understand why he's an underdog, right? He's just not a very physical guy, and he can get his own takedowns, but he's got horrible control himself. It's funny to say, but without a doubt, I can see this 18-year-old kid being the more physical and stronger guy, which is just a bit sad, really, if you're Perrin. Yeah. But yeah, it's just the way it is. It's why they've set him up, and I do see improvement. Like he went up against a very, very physical guy in Bautista, and that was closer than he should have been on short notice. We've seen Bautista's leveled up, and he's finishing a lot of these guys, and Perrin just. The main thing with him is he can't be controlled, right? He can't be controlled. He'll give up takedowns. So no doubt in my mind, Rosas Jr. is getting the first takedown of the fight. The second he tries to go for it, he's got very good shots. He goes, it's very low, shoots from the other side of the octagon. He's got that youth that it's got high level wrestling, like high level wrestling, like whether he can actually take people with good takedown defense or not. But he's got good entries, and he's got the aggression, he's got the grit. He can do it for 3 rounds. We've seen. He did get taken down by Mando himself in round 3, which Jay Perrin can take him down. Now, again, a lot of the people I talk to, they just all crap on Perrin and I used to think the same, but I went like 1, 2, 3, about 7 of his fights I taped, right? So the Dwight Joseph fight in Contender Series 2019, he didn't get taken down once, took Joseph down multiple times, and he just got outstruck there, which is a bit of a worry. Diego Silva, Diego Silva was on LFA, man. He was had a title fight with Argueta, 5-round title fight, had his back. He's a black belt. He also had Perrin's back, which is, I get the concern, right? That's why he's the underdog. Like, Rosas is good at getting on the back, but if everyone falls off. So I can see why he's the underdog, right? He gives his back, he gets taken down, he's not physical, but he doesn't get submitted, he doesn't end up in bad positions. Whenever he gets his back taken, he reverses, and he's got endless cardio, he pushes the pace, never been finished, durable, right? Even Josh Smith took him down multiple times in round 2 when Perrin was like, all right, I want to take him down. He took him down with ease and just rear naked choked him. That's one of his only finishes in a long time, other than bumps, right? So, and then obviously Bautista, he did quite well against him on short notice. And then Archie Lang as well. I bet money on him, $2.50. I have no regrets about that bet. He took him down round 2 and round 1, round 2, and he got hurt in multiple rounds. And obviously the damage is what swayed the judges. And then he came out in round 3 and dominated and almost knocked out Richie Lang. So I think his striking is a bit underrated as well. That's one of the main aspects where I noticed improvement. He's got some pop on his punches. The guy's improving. He's not even 30 years old. He's just, like I said, if this ends up being a scramble fest back and forth, I mean, Rosas Jr. almost lost the scramble fest in Contender Series to Mando. All right, that was what, 1-2 guillotine pulls away from winning at 29-28. And he chose even round 3, he took Rosas down straight away, and then he went for the back, and the commentator felt like, I don't think you should go for this back, and then he fell off straight away. Rosas got on top of him. So just trying to play jiu-jitsu with this Rosas guy. I think Perrin is not a good jiu-jitsu fighter. He's just a grinder, man. He's a grinder, and he'll push the pace and half a unit, whatever. Am I going to lose money on Perrin again? He can do stuff like he did in a Richie Lang fight. It's like, why don't you push sooner? He went on Twitter later on and said, I wish I pushed sooner. I know my mistakes. If I pushed sooner, I would have won this fight. And it's like, that's all well and good, man. I wish you did it in the octagon, when I actually had money on you. So it's like, I feel like I would lose my money here again, doing the same thing. He might do the same stuff as Mando, like he shouldn't do this, but he does it. And then he just talks about it on Twitter later on. But he's trained with Marab, man. He's doing what he has to do. It's a pay-per-view. Like, can Rosas just grapple him for 3 rounds and win a decision? It's highly unlikely, man. I don't see it. It's going to be slim margins in this fight. Slim margins, and one guy's paying $3.25. So I've got a little sprinkle in Jay Perrin, and then I'm going to retape it and talk about it on that final podcast tomorrow about whether I've taken the over 1.5. 50% chance that it doesn't get finished. I think this goes to decision more often than not. I'll be more surprised. I reckon Perrin has more chance of finishing Rosas personally. Might be a hot take. But yeah, I can see him breaking Rosas. Like, if Rosas finishes Perrin, I'll be shocked. Like, this kid will be like an animal. He's going to finish a lot more guys in the UFC. But yeah, let's move on. Perrin is one frustrated dude. If you listen to his interviews, frustrated as in he's annoyed, or frustrated they're trying to set him up.
He's got that weird like chip on his shoulder thing. He's like tweeting like, I've been sleeping under bridges to be, he does that thing where he's like, I've sacrificed all this like no one else sacrifices.
Yeah,
when they're a professional fighter,
I kind of like that. I heard him talking about that against Richie Lang, and I was like, whatever. It's a good.
Bro, this guy's from Mongolia, man. Fuck. You think he hasn't been through like any hardship in his life? Perrin's a bit of a retard, I think.
Who cares about his opponents? He's talking about himself. But no, I like that. That's why I was annoyed, because he was talking like that, and I was expecting him to come forward, and then he got scared from 2 punches, and then he came in round 3. It's like, come on, bro, you were talking a big game. You should have done that from round 1.
Yeah.
He's frustrated again. Maybe he's learned his lesson this time. Nick Pearson, I think Rosas Jr. beats Perrin by decision. $3. I don't know.
Yeah, I think if you like Rosas, that's definitely the way to play him. Like 100%, that's the way to play him. I think there's a little bit of value there, personally. Not a lot. Like, obviously, I'm just betting the overs and the goes a distance, but I think Rosas' decision is a fine bet as well. I think that's probably more like 60% personally. Maybe 55, 60%.
If that's the case and that's the way you lean, just like anyone in general, then I think the best play is the over. And you can hammer it knowing that either result you win your money, and you can maybe sprinkle like Rosas' decision or Perrin decision. unit.
Yeah. I just think Perrin probably has to have moments on the feet, right? He has to land some big shots and like hurt him to really win rounds, because otherwise I think he's just going to spend so much time defensively grappling. But yeah, I hope Perrin wins, because like I just kind of enjoy seeing hype trains getting derailed and people all parlaying Rosas at -2 whatever he is. I just kind of hope they lose.
I hope he wins, because I'm sick of everyone shitting on my boy Perrin, bro.
Yeah, and it's one of those things with the UFC. There's always these prospects, and you get the chance to fade them, and you're like, there might be a little bit of value, but then like the underdog's upside is probably winning a close decision, and you're like, and so for me, I've kind of learned my lesson there. I'm just like, I'll just bet the overs.
Yeah, now overs honestly is where I'm going. But I have to retape it. I'm just have to see if there is that little slight chance that someone gets finished here, like a flash finish. Okay.
Shout out Trop, if he's still in the chat, by the way, because he's kind of the guy who breaks that down the best, of people getting mad when like the Perrin type loses a close decision when his upside was like pretty small to begin with.
Okay. Who did you say? Who's in the chat?
Trotman. I don't know if he's still here or not, but he was going to start.
He's a good judge of it, is he?
Yeah.
Well, jump back in, Trotman, mate. I don't know if he's still here. What's Pepe saying? I wouldn't be shocked if Rosas loses position, then Perrin destroys him on the ground and Rosas wilts. I don't know if he will, man. I've seen a lot of heart from this kid. That's why I'm not underestimating him, because he's had for the first time had a 3-round fight on Contender Series against the solid guy who's also good on top. But that same guy got submitted by Mo Miller. So there you go. And Rosas couldn't submit him. So I don't think he's going to wilt, especially to someone like Perrin. But he will definitely lose position, which is why I played him. He's lost a lot of position against the taxi drivers, and he's lost a lot of positions on Contender as well. So no reason why he can't lose positions to Perrin, who's a great scrambler. And even Bautista lost positions to Perrin. So, all right, let's move on. So the next two I'm taking. Now, just for everyone to know, I take on one fight, and I haven't really taped the second fight properly. So the first fight is Mitchel versus Ilya Topuria. Now, obviously, you have to make a lot of assumptions with this fight. Mitchel, the last fights were his last grappling heavy fights where he's getting grappled himself. Obviously, he just ran through Barbosa. He had a little bit of adversity against Philly, but the last ones were against Tyler Diamond and Bobby Moffett back in 2019 and 18. That's like 3-4 years ago now, and the guy is only 28, I think. Bryce, 28. I think there's a lot of improvement. Obviously, I didn't retape the Matt Styles and Charles Rosa fights. Absolutely useless fights in hindsight. And look, he did get taken down 4 times by Bobby Moffett, right? Essentially got taken down every single time Bobby Moffett shot for a takedown. Bobby Moffitt's underrated. He's a solid wrestler, especially when he was in the UFC. He almost beat Barbosa. He had a close fight with Evloev. So the guy's a solid fighter. His best move is the Darce choke, which he put out Skelly with, which is very impressive. And Bryce Mitchell was in multiple Darces, right? He got up, got on top, right? Obviously, Topuria's favorite sequence is the headlock sequence as well. Anaconda's guillotines, power guillotines. He's a strong kid, right? Bryce seems durable as well. Obviously, a red flag that he was on his back a lot. I think his wrestling's improved. I like to assume that his takedown defense is improved in that time as well. We haven't seen it, hence why I say we've got some questions. Tyler Diamond held him down in round 3. Again, that was a while back. He is very active off his back. He straight away locked in deep triangles against Moffett and Diamond. Like 2 seconds in, they're just fully locked in triangles. I think he's a very good scrambler, very good off his back. He doesn't really play jiu-jitsu. After the triangle attempt, he just shoots straight back up. Philly reversed him multiple times and not much time on his back, just straight back up. He's always blowing, like after round 1, even against Barbosa, he's blowing out of his mouth and he looks like he's tired and he's just going to fight for your money, man. He has no quit in him. He just comes out in round. He looks like he's done after round 2 multiple times, even against Philly. He was 1-1 going into the 3rd. And he just came out there in round 3 and just pushed the pace and just round 3 was his best round. So he's just breaking these guys. He looks like he's tired and he's breaking the guys. You know he's not going to tap. You know he's not going to quit. On the other side, Topuria, again, we've got some questions. The best you can see in terms of grappling is his very short notice fight against Alal. I played him there. I remember taping his regional scene twice as everyone was talking about how much of a gun he was, but he slows down. And, you know, the only fight you could see in 2016 when he was like 19 years old, he got a guillotine in round 2, but it was quite gassy. But it's a 19-year-old kid. You can't take anything from that. It was so long ago. And even, you know, I just bit the bullet and played him as a massive dog against Zalal. And I was like, you know, if he gasses, he gasses. I think there's a ton of value here still. And it was fine. He slowed down in round 3, but I can't remember now if he got a 30-27. He was still getting takedowns on Zalal in round 3. But Zalal's a bad fighter. Like, if you look at his record, Zalal's bad. Zalal's a guy that got out-wrestled by Choi. So take that with a grain of salt. I played Choi as an underdog there. Choi was taking Zalal down at will. So these are the people that Topuria is, you know, fought. He fought Zalal. He couldn't submit him. Right. I don't think he's going to submit Bryce. Obviously ran through Damon Jackson. Damon Jackson's probably the best guy he's fought, but he's fragile, very fragile, and he did what he had to do. He pressured him. He knocked him out. If that fight plays out longer, and let's say we imagine Damon Jackson has a good chin, who knows how it goes. Jackson cracked him a few times. Ryan Hall, horrible fight. We've seen what even Derek Minner hurt Ryan Hall and throw him around. He's just a fragile dude. I don't think he's as good as people think Ryan Hall is. And Jay Herbert, you know, dropped him. My main takeaway there, he couldn't really hold Jay Herbert down, and he struggled to take him down early. Obviously, he was a bit wobbled, a bit stunned. And then obviously had to knock him out. Yeah, I think the main weakness, it doesn't look like he has many weaknesses, Topuria, but the main one is, I think, the cardio, which we haven't seen since the Zalal fight. Potentially it could rear its head again. And the other thing is his relenting confidence, right? He's so confident. He just marauds forward. He looks for that KO, and he's hittable while he does that, right? He's been dropped on the regionals. He's been dropped by Herbert as well now. He is hittable. He can lose position late, right? We've seen Zalal get on top a few times. And, I mean, Bryce Mitchell, man, he dropped Barbosa with the left hand. He dropped Moffat with the left hand. So I think he can keep it competitive on the feet. I'm not really confident. I think Topuria's best chance is to just pressure him and put on the pressure with his power, work the body, make Mitchell look uncomfortable, make it look bad towards the judges. But I think if he takes Mitchell down and he tries to play that game that he played against Zalal, I think he's just going to end up in a 3-round scramble fest, and all the values on Mitchell, man. I think if Mitchell takes him down once, I think he'll struggle early because Topuria looks very physical. Looks like he's got very good takedown defense and a good Greco background. He's a lot more physical. But if Bryce does take him down somehow, I think this is Bryce could look value, man. Topuria's going to have to scramble. He's going to have to work his way up, and then the cardio is going to get his gas tank is going to be worked more than it's ever been worked. So it's a tough one. Like I said, a lot of questions, but man, I've already got a unit on Bryce. I just taped it today because the line moved, and I was like, I thought I was going to cash out because the tape wasn't. I was like, this is going to be a lot of questions, and it's not my kind of fight. You know, I don't like to. A lot of times, I don't like to bet fights that have a lot of questions. But this one, I'm just leaning Bryce, man. The guy's going to fight for my money. He's a redneck. He's going to throw down. I know he can go 3 rounds hard. Seen him multiple times, even though the fights were close. I know he can come out and win. So yeah, I might just have to play him. I might have to keep half a unit on Bryce, $2.40, and potentially save some for live bet. But I feel good about this bet, man. I think Topuria is going to get a bit of a wake up call with this step up. What do you think?
Unmute myself. Mate, you took your time with that one, so I'll try to be brief. I agree. I think Bryce is the side here. Obviously, Topuria dangerous on the feet and could knock him out early, but kind of the way he just steps in and he swings so hard is kind of ideal for Bryce, who's really good at timing his shots when guys are stepping in to swing on him. One thing that maybe gives him trouble is the fact that Topuria will lead to the body. And then come back up to the head afterwards. So he might find it hard to level change if Topuria is going to the body first when he steps in. But, you know, Bryce is probably going to get in on shots, right? I'm super impressed by the improvements in this guy's wrestling. Even the way he uses striking, he's very low volume. He'll just kick from the outside, but he gets guys sort of just baited enough into thinking that he's going to strike with them. And then he gets them to step in and he just shoots, and just great timing on his takedowns. Really, really nice timing. Good double legs, good single legs, can wrestle from most positions. Obviously that training he's doing with that D1 team out there in Arkansas is really paying off. I think he's definitely leveled up from those Moffat and Tyler Diamond fights personally. So yeah, I'll just look to either live bet Bryce or goes a distance after round 1. or, you know, maybe obviously it could be during round 1, depending on how the fight's playing out. I just think he's going to be able to hit some takedowns here, especially after rewatching the Zalal fight. Like, Zalal was able to get Topuria down with single legs. Topuria is pretty positionally loose. He chases the front head and submission attempts too much, and Bryce is just so positionally sound. I just think he's going to out-scramble Topuria. He's going to be able to probably win the grappling exchanges, find the dominant positions, and rack up some control time. Topuria slows down, like we've seen. He's pretty hittable, and like Bryce is like, again, not a great striker. He's a bit low volume, but when he does throw, like it's pretty sharp, and he's got good timing, good accuracy. He knows how to like pull guys, get them walking onto shots. So yeah, I think Bryce is the side, but obviously Topuria is going to come out, and he's probably going to have some big hard flurries to start the fight. He'll probably back Bryce up to the cage and swing on him with some big combos. But Bryce, I think, will you know, figure out the timing, make his reads, and then start to get the grappling going after that. I think Bryce by decision is pretty good. I don't think he's going to finish Topuria. Like, Topuria does slow down, but he doesn't stop fighting. Like, he's got heaps of heart, like you saw in the Herbert fight. So if I was going to bet anything pre-fight, it'd be that Bryce by decision. You can get between like plus 250 and plus 300. I think that's pretty good value. But yeah, in terms of betting money line or goes a distance, I'll just wait live, because I think, you know, one big Topuria flurry up against the cage where he's just hitting Bryce's arms and all that sort of stuff, and you know, the line will jump out a bit. So yeah, that's what I like.
Nice. I was gonna. That's a good point that you make. He's very good at timing his takedowns, Bryce. So even though he might struggle with Topuria, I think when he loads up with these big overhands, that'll be a good time to shoot under him. So yeah, and I did take my time, mate, because I got a passionate take. So don't always have passionate takes, which leads me into this fight that I don't have a passionate take on. Like I said, one of these fights I don't have a take on. So Darren Till, V Du Plessis, your favorite fighter. He was just nodding his head just then, if you can't see on YouTube. So I think this line is a bit out of whack. I get why the money's coming in on Du Plessis. You know, a lot of people hate on him. I've made money on him in his debut. I made money on him fading Travin Giles, because you can't not lose money fading Giles. And then I bet him as a pick him against Tavares, just because I thought Tavares is probably the easiest matchup in the rankings, right? Doesn't do much, right? He's very low output. And even then, I was sweating in that first round. Like, what the hell was that all about? When he was diving on the legs and he looked like he needed a takedown, otherwise he was going to die in the second. I was like, what are you doing, man? Just strike with him. And then he just calmed down in rounds 2 and 3 and just outstruck him, even though he was already busted up. And I was like, this could have easily been a 30-27 for Du Plessis if he didn't come out like an idiot. And he's openly admitted that he gets very nervous before fights. That's why he just freaks out. And he just spazzes out completely when people feint. And if anything, man, Darren Till throws a lot of feints. He throws a lot of feints. He's a southpaw. He's got that good straight down the pipe. I get why money's coming on Du Plessis. He's got a lot more volume. He bites down. He throws. He gritted out the fight against Tavares. Tavares just was getting the shit kicked out of him. But yeah, if Darren Till, man, if he just pressures him like the old Darren Till and feints, puts him against the cage and waits for that counter left when Du Plessis, you know, throws his little telegraph blitz. Even though it has no volume, man, he could be quite a big value side here. Like, as much as Till has been a bit of a letdown recently, he's not worse than Brad Tavares, man. Brad Tavares is meat and potatoes, and Darren Till has somewhat of an IQ. You know, if it's a striking battle, he freezes his opponents. Whitaker throws a bit. Like the Plessis can freeze. Yeah, just not a hot take, but this line is it's calling my name, man. It's just might just have to play the number here. 250 on Darren Till. He just has to win a 3-round decision and not get sparked, not get knocked out. I can also see Du Plessis wrestling him, which is a bit of a red flag. He went so hard against Tavares, and he almost got a takedown. I don't think Till's going to put that much of a resistance. I think Till's going to be on his back much sooner. So yeah, that's a bit of a concern. I will have to look into it some more. But yeah, it's an easy dog or pass. I wouldn't be playing Du Plessis at this insane line. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I don't have any interest in the money line personally. There's just too many question marks around the Darren Till side for me. I just no idea where he's at. Like, he looked terrible physically against Brunson in his last fights before that. Obviously, he had the ACL, but I find it hard to say that like how bad he looked can purely be attributed to the ACL. Because, you know, he doesn't throw. He's a terrible grappler. He loves to just like back up, feint, do nothing. So yeah, I'm not too interested in betting his money line here. And again, like, I don't think Till's going to immediately do something which means his money line becomes unplayable and you lose the price in the fight. Maybe he does, but I personally don't see it. On the other side, Dricus, no chance I lay this juice on this guy's money line. I maintain that he's a pretty terrible fighter in a lot of regards, but I can't deny that he is effective. He's, like you said, he's very panicky and spazzy and bites hard on everything, chins up in the air, his mechanics are terrible. But he's made it work mainly on the back of his physical attributes so far. The dude hits hard. He's strong. He's got good cardio despite, being a bit of a spaz and a mouth breather and super inefficient. So I found like a couple angles I don't like the money line at all. I took a bit of Till no scorecards plus 210. I thought that was pretty wide. Obviously he could end up being quite KO reliant here because he's such a bad minute winner. But Dricus's defensive holes mean he's pretty live to just get sparked by the left hand. So I thought that was value. Meanwhile, like Till, he could get finished, but like he's never been chinny or fragile in the past. He's maybe been a bit wilty, but like Dricus is not like gonna hit takedowns and just monster him from top like Brunson did, like to that degree. Like maybe Dricus subs him, but I think it's more like club sub or snatching a neck in transition or something. Dricus hits hard, but at the same time, like Till's, just not a chinny guy. So I thought that line was quite off. I thought it should have been much nearer to a pick'em on the no scorecards. And then I took a little bit of Dricus decision plus 380. So that's like, getting towards 20% implied. And that's kind of what I think might be the most common outcome. But again, like the Rosas fight, like I could entertain, a Till finish, a Dricus finish, Dricus decision, Till decision even just on moments. So yeah, there's a lot of ways this fight could go, but I just thought that line was probably a bit wide. But I just think I like Dricus's ability to win minutes just off the leg kicks and a bit of the spazzy volume and just Till's tendencies to back up and throw nothing. So 2 small bets on Till, no scorecards, and Dricus by decision. If Dricus finishes them, I lose both, but I've only risked just over half a unit combined on those, so I'm fine with it. And then obviously I profit on a Dricus decision or a Till finish. So yeah, that's how I've played it. I just don't have much conviction in where Till's at to make any sort of sizable bet on anything. And yeah, the money line's just too much of a question mark for me. But definitely Till or pass. No argument for paying that juice on Dricus, in my opinion.
Yeah, to add to that, it looks quite good on Instagram too. Probably the best he's ever been. And I don't really do social media, but I think in this case you have to because obviously everyone has questions about Till's shape and whatnot. Looks fine. He's got abs. Probably the best he's ever looked. It definitely doesn't look as bad as the Brunson fight. And I think that ACL happened in that camp as well. So yeah, it's just I'll look into it some more, but I'm leaning towards Till.
Oh, he's done it again. He's pressed the wrong button. All right. I'm sure he'll be back in a second. There we go.
Shit. That's annoying. Alrighty. Technical difficulties. I blame Scrap. Let's share the screen. So next fight, Santiago Ponzinibbio, Alex Morono. Man, I don't have any hot takes on this. One washed Ponzinibbio at juiced favorite odds. And Morono is just the type of guy that he'll give a veteran lesson to people that are not deserving like Zawada and Semmelsberger and I guess Cerrone, past his prime Cerrone, but it's just it's a catch weight. He's always looking a bit flabby, and now it's a catch weight at 180. I know he's always training with short notice, but whenever he takes these short notice fights, he makes the 170. Now he needs 180. What kind of shape is he coming in? I don't know. It's just these. We talked about it a few weeks ago or a month ago with Means and Max Griffin. Like these mid-card welterweight fights, I just have no interest in them, and I can't really get a read personally. So maybe you have a better read than me.
Kind of like I took a bit of the over Like I think overs and the goes the distance, if they're floating out there around like -130. I think that's pretty good. I mean, I know what everyone's going to say, like, yeah, it's going to be high tempo striking, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but at the end of the day, neither guy is a huge hitter and they're both reasonably durable. After tape, I was also like pretty surprised. Like, I'm not a Morono hater per se, but he's a guy that I've probably tried to fade a little bit in the past. But like Morono, despite looking pretty bad to the eye, because he doesn't do things like conventionally, like it's oh, geez, mate, my fan club is expanding. He doesn't do things like the way you would teach someone to do things, but again, he's like undeniably effective, right? And especially defensively, like you don't see, aside from like Chaos just fucking going rabies and bonking at him, you don't see Morono getting hit clean too often. Like he got hit by the flying knee in Semmelsberger, but like he only really gets hit by those like Hail Marys, you know? Guys have a hard time like finding him consistently and landing on him consistently. And I think that could be a thing here, right? Like he does a really good job of just constantly circling off. He's always moving in his feet. And then as guys are following him in, he does a good job of going back in with his own shots, timing them, intercepting them. And you see like Semmelsberger was just completely flummoxed for the whole first 2 rounds, landed the big flying knee in the third and kind of managed to like leverage that into more success over the course of that round. You know, if he hadn't landed that flying knee, I think round 3 would have just been a repeat of the previous 2. Pons, on the other hand, he does do some things that could maybe give Morono some issues. Obviously, the leg kicks would be one. Morono hasn't really fought a super dedicated leg kicker. The way he was circling away after his right-hand side against Semmelsberger meant that Semmelsberger was just constantly whiffing because he was trying to kick as Morono was moving away from his right leg. So that could you know, give Ponzinibbio some issues here. But he does a better job of like cutting off the cage than Semmelsberger, but you saw it in his last fight against Pereira, like he'll kind of cut guys off against the cage, but then he won't do anything. He'll just kind of like stand and wait too long, and then the other guy will throw on him, and as he guards up, they'll circle off. So in terms of the money line, I think it's Morono or pass. Some concerns, obviously, given the short notice and the catch weight, but he's kind of like always training, and now he's in that like James Krause period of his career where he's a coach and he's happy just to jump in and take these short notice fights. So Morono generally does start to like blow a bit in the third, but you know, it's not a huge concern for me, to be honest. So yeah, I took a bit of the over because I just think that, yeah, both guys durable. I don't think either will be like landing huge shots on each other consistently. Should just be like a medium high tempo-ish striking sort of back and forth fight. One thing that maybe probably concerns me the most on the Morono side is Ponzinibbio has been shooting more takedowns recently, and Morono, if you do try to take him down, you usually succeed, and he has terrible get-ups. He just kind of plays jiu-jitsu, plays guard from his back. So that's like one route Ponzinibbio could go that would probably help him cover his price. I think that's maybe the only way he covers his price, to be honest. But yeah, the only other thing interested me was maybe a bit of that Morono decision. It's out there at like plus 275. You know, if I think there's a bit of value on his money line, I certainly think there's value on that. You know, I could see Morono winning a close striking decision fairly often. So I haven't played that yet. I'm not sure if I will. Just the over for now, but that's something else for me that I'll be just keeping an eye on, sort of thing. What about you?
Nothing, dude. I started this fight. I said I got no read.
Oh yeah, have you even taped it or no?
Nah, I haven't taped it. I'm not really in a rush to tape it. Like, I know I'm not going to get behind Ponzinibbio at $1.57.
No. I think, yeah, for me it's like pass, like Morono will pass on the money line, but I still like over goes the distance, because is Morono really going to finish Pons? I struggle to see it. So I prefer to play like over goes the distance. I like, obviously it could happen. I just personally don't think it happens very often. Yeah, I like over and maybe a little bit of Morono decision.
Yeah, it's one of those fights, man. It's one of those fights. A lot of jokes on my behalf. That's what I like to see. Better me than someone that can't take it. All right, I'll do the next fight and I'll let you finish off with a bang on the main event. Paddy Pimblett, Jared Gordon. He's just, you wanna fade Paddy, right? Especially after that Jordan Levitt fight. The guy's a horrible minute winner. I'm not someone that hates on him. I know people have been hating on him since he made his debut. I didn't play Luigi. I was close to playing Luigi. It's just something, I didn't think Luigi was the guy to punish him. I think he's got a lot of intangibles. He's aggressive. He's young. He's confident. He's got good back takes. He's got good finishing ability, unlike a lot of the jiu-jitsu guys. For example, Jared Gordon, Danaher brown belt, can't finish a rear naked choke to save his life. He's got like 2 submissions on his career, 11 decisions. All right, so he's dangerous. One of his losses against Soren Back, he had his back in straight away and almost choked him out, and then obviously got gassed out. Submitting Jordan Levitt, the first person to do it, also very impressive. I just think he's got power in his hands. He throws hard. He's got a good scouser chin. He is underrated, in my opinion. Obviously, there's a lot of hype on him, but he is a solid fighter, but he's just a bad minute winner. So, obviously, he gets cracked by Luigi straight away, losing that round up until he's not. It's kind of the story of his career. Straight away gets cracked by Vargas, who's horrible, and just flops to his back, ends up spending a couple of minutes on his back, then reverses, does a judo throw and just finishes. He's got very good judo throws. I can completely see him judo throwing Jared Gordon. At some point, Jared is a bit. I've lost a lot of hope for Jared. You know, taping him more recently since I went full time. More and more, I went from a guy like obviously I faded Solecki with him. I faded him against 40-year-old Silva. I played him against Fishgold, and every single time he's just under-delivered for me. Even against Chavez, he's just not the guy that I thought he was. Yes, he's got good cardio. He's chinny though, and he's not very physical. He can get taken down by a lot of people. Like I got really close to playing Dawson at Juice. And he had his moments, you know, had some reversals, some guillotine reversals, and he got out of the back takes. But he was still on the way to losing that fight and just got submitted in the end. So it's just, I can kind of see Paddy doing this as well. But even against Jordan Levitt took him down multiple times and slammed him and had him against the cage for a lot of round 1, a lot of round 2. It's just like Jared Gordon can do that, and he's a much better version. He's actually got better cardio, unlike Levitt, Levitt drinks soy lattes every single day of the week. And I think Gordon's just a complete different fighter, but they still gave him a matchup where Paddy can finish him. But if he doesn't, it's a rough fight. I don't want to play the juice on Paddy because I think the fade is coming, just like his old Cage Warriors days where he just doesn't get the submission and he just ends up flopping on his back. And it's just Jared Gordon. I think the live bet is good here. Live bet is good, and if you want to play Jared Gordon, sprinkle on him by decision. I think he's paying $8 on Bet365. Let me just check.
Jesus.
You only need, I know, right? Oh no, it's not 5.5. My bad.
I was going to say, all right.
Yeah, you definitely would have played it, wouldn't you? Even 5.5. That's decent. All right, put a quarter unit. Jared Gordon by decision.
I won't jump the gun, but yeah, I've got something similar.
One's a good minute winner. The other one isn't. The other thing is, Levitt was winning all of round 1, and then Paddy just tossed him once and finished the round on top of him out, throwing ground and pound. So he's got those intangibles, man. He can do the same thing to Gordon. So it's a pass fight for me at the moment, man. Those are my thoughts on it. They put me in a position where I have to pass. What's your take? What's your angle?
Yeah, I largely agree. I don't see any argument for laying Paddy minus 200 and something. Like Gordon's serviceable, but he just makes a lot of mistakes, and his physicality is not great. So yeah, I think he's likely to win minute here, just because he's got like the consistent output. Paddy can obviously get stuck on bottom. He's got good cardio, but in saying that, obviously, it's a hard matchup for Gordon because he's very prone to making mistakes, particularly at things that Paddy is good at, like the back takes, right? If like Gordon, just because he's a bad athlete, he just kind of gets bundled over and like loses his balance and gets thrown to the ground super easily. And because he's so slow, like guys are just able to put the hooks in when he starts trying to get up. And then once he has his back taken, he can escape, but obviously he struggled against Dawson. But you'd have to say Dawson is probably a fair bit better than Paddy. But at the same time, Paddy's like a back specialist. That's his thing, right? So if he puts the body triangle in, wouldn't be surprised if Gordon just gets stuck there. Paddy also live for moments on the feet. He could crack Gordon. But to be honest, Gordon's striking's looked a lot better of late. Like he's not really getting caught as much as he used to in those other fights. I think his striking's actually maybe improved a bit, and he's kind of shored up the defense a little bit. I'm definitely more concerned about him just like getting his back taken in a weird scramble or something like that. But yeah, like I largely agree with your takes. I'm not betting Gordon moneyline pre-fight. I've just taken a small bet on Gordon round 3 or decision. I got it was like a 50-cent difference to the decision line. So I'm happy to cover round 3 for that price, when Paddy in the past has shown pretty bad cardio, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he gets put on bottom in round 3 and just kind of melts a bit. Gordon does do a pretty good job of pouring it on. He's not got like huge devastating ground and pound, but we saw in the Fishgold fight, he'll just kind of like pour on volume and can just kind of make guys melt a bit with the pace. But yeah, I do think Paddy's like a justified favorite here, but I don't see any way you could be betting him at this line. Pretty crazy. The guy's still probably lost like a majority of the minutes that he's fought in the UFC before just kind of pulling finishes out like he's done against Levitt, like he did against Benjamini, like against Kazula, right? Like this guy's, yeah, he's clearly just got still massive holes in his game, but Gordon's kind of makes enough mistakes and has holes that are pretty well correlated to Paddy's strengths that he maybe finds a way to fuck it up. But happy with that round 3 decision bet. I think there's a fair bit of value there at I think it was $4.50 or whatever. So
yeah, pretty much on the same page, just a little bit safer. I'll be surprised if Gordon finishes him in round 3. I get playing it safe, but I mean, if you couldn't get that 40-year-old Santos out of there, man, he's just, like I said, very underwhelming. Even that Fishgold fight, man, he just could have got Fishgold out of there, and he just had him in turtle, just pitter-pattering him. He's just not, Gordon's not what I expected, man. Maybe he just needs to get back on the stuff like back in the day and get his aggression back. Gordon's cardio isn't great; it's decent, but not there. That's what I realized as well upon retaping. Like I used to think he was like some sort of Khabib, but then gassed against Solecki as well. Very lucky to win that.
Yeah, I think it just comes back to the fact that he's like not a great athlete, so he has to work quite hard to get stuff done, which is why he slows down. But I think he's definitely more functional than Paddy when he's gassed. Paddy when he's gassed just turns into a complete flop from what we've seen.
Yeah, we haven't seen it in a while. That's the thing. I'm wary of our improvements. What's Giza mean though by this? You guys, you got
probably something to do with that video about like Paddy's dog taking a sloppy shit on his neighbor's lawn or whatever, and he was asking his neighbor for a bag to scoop it up or something like that, or a bottle of water or whatever. Yeah,
one of those inside jokes. Cool. All right, last fight of the night, we got young Błachowicz versus Ankalaev for the title. I'm hoping it's not as underwhelming as I expect it to be. I did think the Rakic-Błachowicz fight was going to be very underwhelming, and it surprised me, but I think half of that was Rakic being a bit of an idiot and just coming in there super aggressive, super hittable. I don't think Ankalaev is going to be like that, and therefore it's going to be a bit of a staring contest. I kind of like the overs. I like the 2.5. And I see a lot of people hammering the juice on Ankalaev. I don't know how much value you see there. Personally, that's not my kind of play. Some people that, well, I don't know, are semi-respected, I guess. I wouldn't say respected, but people know about him and they're just laying the juice. Not for me. I'm still doing some more tape on Jan. The guy's been an insane underdog. You can't go wrong. I just blindly bet Teixeira against him in the title fight. I thought Teixeira was going to struggle to get takedowns, and he did fine. You can just blindly bet the underdog in all of Jan's fights, and it's going to go well. So I think it's close enough on the feet. Like I mentioned before, what's his name? Dalcha cracked him, Ankalaev. Obviously, we've seen Santos crack him. We've seen Paul Craig take Ankalaev down. He's not perfect. He fights the right game plan. And he's fighting Jan, who's also a really good kickboxer. He checks kicks, good striker. So, yeah, it's a dog or pass for me. I have to look into it. Obviously, they're talking about the takedowns. Takedowns can break up a lot, and Jan's a bit of a turtle. So, yeah, I don't have the hottest take. I just kind of like the overs. What about you?
Yep, same thing. Can't lay the juice on Ankalaev. Like, obviously, I do think he should be the favorite, but the guy just fights on pretty thin margins. And Jan, in the striking especially, I think that this line is going to look pretty wide. He's got really good kick defense, like you said. So then is Ankalaev going to be able to find him with kind of the just single shots or two punch combinations that he throws? Maybe, but it's kind of just a bit of kicking from outside and then looking for his counters and like 1-2 shot combinations purely to the head. Like he pretty much almost never punches the body. So I think Jan, for the most part, is going to be able to defend the strikes fairly well. Obviously, the hard part for Jan is just going to be able to getting his own offense off because Ankalaev's got good footwork. He's hard to hit. He's got this good distance control. So I think, yeah, that largely leads to a pretty low tempo, tepid striking match for the most part. So I'm like you, I like the overs. I took a bit of over 2.5. Got that at like minus 155, which is like $1.65 decimal. So yeah, which I quite like because especially the first round, I expect it to be very, very slow. Ankalaev fights very slow in the first round in a 3-rounder. So here in a 5-rounder, I'm expecting this one to be like really slow to get going. Yeah, main concern is obviously the grappling. Ankalaev getting on top, but he definitely doesn't. He never looks for it early. It kind of becomes something he goes to later on if he's starting to get a bit uncomfortable on the feet, which could happen here because Jan's got some pretty like sharp counters, and maybe if he starts like doing his little running blitzes, maybe they start giving Ankalaev some problems. Those would also open him up to getting countered pretty hard though. But I don't think Ankalaev's going to wrestle super heavy in this fight. Unless obviously like Jan does something to make him uncomfortable, he gets the takedown, he feels how easy it was, and then he goes back to it. But we saw in Santos, like, fuck, he could wrestle that guy so easily, but he wouldn't go back to it, right? So he never wrestles as much as he should. Even if he goes to the mat, I think Jan's, like, he's a turtle, his get-ups suck, but his defensive jiu-jitsu is probably good enough to stay safe and not get pounded out. So yeah, to be honest, I think this is an Ankalaev decision at a decent clip. But Jan's at the age now where he could just get like caught on the feet. He could get maybe pounded out on the mat or get flattened out. And yeah, so I've just taken that over 2.5. If I'm up on the card, I might end up sprinkling a little bit of Ankalaev decision, like plus 200 or better. I think is a bit of value. So I might get involved with that on fight day if the day's going well. But yeah, just the over 2.5 for now.
Nice. Last time I don't like over-unders. Last time I played the over 2.5. Missed out by 30 seconds when Rakic blew out his knee. So hopefully that doesn't repeat. I agree with the line though. Seems about right. I don't know. I don't know if it's right.
It all depends how much Ankalaev wrestles, right? Like, and he just
exactly.
Based on what we've seen in the past, he does not wrestle enough for this line to be accurate, in my opinion. Maybe this fight it changes, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, who has he covered this line? Did he even cover against Santos? I guess he won 4 rounds to 1, but it wasn't. It's Santos. Also doesn't throw anything whatsoever. I'm in the boat of Jamai Hill being a future champ still, so I can't wait for that fight. All right, let's do best bets and get out of here. You go first, mate. I'm scrambling for something really personally. What do you got? Your 2 best?
Let's just pull up the card again real quick. Okay. So, best bets. Probably the Perrin Rosas over / GTD would probably be my favorite spot. And then, yeah, smaller bets. The Curtis Buckley goes a distance and also the Buckley decision. Yeah, those would probably be the 2 spots that I like the most on the card.
Cool. So at the moment, I have what I've officially played is Salvador under 1.5 with cap at $1.44. Daukaus under 1.5. Perrin. I'm probably gonna like that over 2.5 quite well. And Mitchel, I got Mitchel as well. It's a tough one. What's my favorite? I'll give you two of my favorites, and then tomorrow I'll do the podcast. So there's less pressure on me with these bets. I reckon Perrin. I really like that Curtis, man. Oh, actually, no. Sorry. Pardon me. I haven't played it because the odds haven't opened up for this fight. But fight doesn't go decision in the Hernandez Billy Quarantillo. That's my favorite. That's 100% my favorite. At plus money, that shouldn't be plus money. Should be like $1.60, let's say. You know, round 1 equity from Hernandez down the stretch from Old Mate and also at featherweight. Unknowns. And my second one, it's between Perrin, it's between Mitchel. It's a tough one. What's going to make me look more like a genius? Probably the Perrin fight. Let's say Perrin. $3.25 I got. The cap him at 30%. That's just silly. I mean, 30%. It's crazy. This 18-year-old kid just to look like Kamzat against Perrin. But yeah, that's me, mate. Another semi-long one. We'll try to do it quick. It is what it is. You can't help it. Like and subscribe. A lot of the boys in here I appreciate everyone coming in. Just more and more fans every time. Just it's good for chatting. Here we go. Pepe Silvia. Stevie, doing LFA one or too busy? Oh man, I'm waking up at 6 a.m. tomorrow to do Bellator because I just have one more fight to tape, and then I'm gonna do a few hours later. I do this final, like 10-minute final podcast for my final bets for this card, and then I'm going 7 p.m. to the airport to pick someone up. So there'll be no podcasts, but I will tape LFA and I'll chat to you as well, mate. Like let's get some good plays. Same as you. Do you have any plays, Scrap, on LFA, or you haven't looked into it yet?
No, not LFA. Haven't had time to tape it this week, but no, I got a couple of things on Bellator, but yeah, nothing on LFA.
It's a tough one. It's Bellator, it's a pay-per-view, it's LFA, but I'm definitely trying to get through all of them, trying to make some money, trying to turn around last week's bad result. So yeah, tomorrow tune in, boys. Go to Bellator, go to final bets, and then I can't do LFA unfortunately because I'll be away. I've got a Bucks night for 3 days. But thanks for joining me, mate. Yeah, see you next week for the last UFC card, and hopefully we'll make some money. Close the year out with a bang.
Yep, sounds good, mate. Catch you later.
Good luck. See you, everyone. Thanks for joining.